So I've finished most of my garden area here. As you can tell, I ended up having to fence it off because we've got dogs and they were getting into the gardens. We've got kids, they were getting into the gardens. So I've got it all fenced off now. As you can tell, fence goes all the way around and all the way up to meet up with the previous fenced-in garden area. That's mainly my wife's area over there. And I have covered all the ground like I had shown you when I got started with paper and cardboard, leaf mulch, wood chips. I ended up getting a load of wood chips, then another load of wood chips, and I've used multiple types, as you can tell. But what I've done is I'm using this new fence line to my advantage. I've got over here a tiny little kiwi, and then I transplanted 2 kiwis that I had on another fence before and got another new one. So now I have 3 females and 1 male, and that should be a good number there. Apparently you can typically do up to 6 females per male, and so 4 I figure is probably a good number, and that's all the space I had. So along here I've got some blackberries. There's 1 blackberry, there's another blackberry. These will grow up this fence line. And then I've got 2 strips here, and as I'm sure you can tell, there's red in the areas that I'm pointing out. I got some free red wood chips, some wood mulch, and I sprinkled that over my garden areas, and if nothing else, it helps kind of color code things and help the kids to know where they can and can't walk and that type of thing. So that should be a good visual indicator as I go through here. But what I did here is set up a trellis for my raspberries. So I've got posts, and you can see this one here as well as that one up there. I've got the posts, and then off the posts I did cross sections with some 2x4s at the top and bottom, and I drilled holes in them and then got some, I believe it was 14 gauge electrical wire, and that's what I used. And so what I would do is I actually started down here on this side, and I would tie it off on one of these holes here, and I would wrap it through a few times and stick it back in the hole to kind of finish it off, and then ran a U-nail, fencing nail, in the edge there to make sure it was very secure, and then ran this all the way down. So you can tell it's not extremely tight, but it's pretty tight. That's about as far as it pulls back without giving major resistance. And then I got the T-posts here, and they've got the wire wrapped around them to hold it steady, and then it continues on. And what I ended up doing is I went through the hole I drilled here, wrapped it around a few times, and then went around the back side, as you can tell, and then back through that hole, wrap around a few times, and then back out. And so this is actually one continuous line of wire that's used for the whole top half of this trellis, all the way down, all the way back, and then tied off the same way at the top. And I did the same at the bottom. The other thing I did that was a little more slightly unique, but fairly normal for raspberry trellis, is, as you should be able to tell, it looks like a V shape where the T-posts kind of come up and out at an angle, and that just creates the effect. I also did the same with these supports, where the bottom ones are shorter than the top ones, and that allows the bottom area to be a little tighter, the top to be wider, and that way as the canes grow up they can kind of lean on the outside and lean out, and that should provide easy picking and a good way to grow them that way. I've got another raspberry here in between to just grow on the fence, and then there's my other row, and then I did 2 more raspberries, you should be able to see there and there, that will grow on that fence. Then coming back around to the other side, it finishes off my front area here. You can see this big garden bed looking strip here. These haven't started leafing out yet, I kind of just planted them, but you can see this little twig that sticks up here. They're boysenberries. So I've got 1, there's 2, and 3 there, and 4, and this one actually has started leafing out a little bit. So I've got 4 boysenberries to grow on this fence line, and that's the fence that borders the other garden area, our kind of real garden beds, which, as you can tell, are actually doing really well. We've got the kale and broccoli covered up because they were getting munched on, but everything else is doing really good. Made a new kind of strip here, Didn't put a lot of work into it, basically just tilled it, ran a strip of brick to keep weeds out, and it's not going so well, but some things are coming up and we'll see. We'll work on that over the next year or two. But coming back around to the beginning, that was the entry gate here. We've got the main path down there with the kiwis. And here we've got, actually just noticed today, this guy started to leaf out. And that is a jostaberry. So I've got a jostaberry there, another jostaberry over here, and then the blueberries start. And these were the extra blueberries, if you remember from previous video where I got some extra runners off of somebody else's plants, and most of them did well. We got that one, we got this one, and you can tell that they look like they will be producing some blueberries this year. So that's interesting. I wasn't expecting that, but we've got that one over there, one over here, over there, and then one that died, and that one didn't make it. But the rest of these did, so that was nice. And then in between here, I've planted other things. I'll have to go back and look to tell exactly what I planted, because I really don't remember in each place. You can see these little sprouts starting up, and those ones are either squash or zucchini. I did both, can't remember which is right there. And then coming on over here, I planted some pumpkin and watermelon. So that's one. Again, I'm not really sure which one that is. And the same over here. There's some little sprouts coming up. But basically these in-between garden bed areas, in between all these berry bushes, should be covered with big vines, more annual things that take up a lot of space. And then starting over here, I started doing perennials. So if you see the little sprouts here, those are curly kale on this side. Then coming around here, I did lacinato kale, and then I did some lovage and purslane and another perennial green somewhere in this area. I can't remember where. Some of this stuff is kind of getting lost, but we'll see what comes up, what does well, and go from there. These here are the honeyberries. Got the 3 honeyberries here, and then we phase into, okay, so 1, 2, 3 honeyberries. Then we've got the gummy berries there, and where's the other one? Maybe there, and that might be the other gummy, actually. Yeah, because the honeyberries, I was wrong. Honeyberries are these 3. This one's a gummy, that one's a gummy. And again, there are other things planted in here. We had a few very struggling tomato seedlings that I put in. You can see this one here. Not really doing so hot, very small. We'll see if they make it or not, but we had a bunch of extras, about 15, so I'm making use. Also have gooseberries starting here. We got 3 gooseberries. In between here, I did some lingonberries, yes, lingonberries. And so I've got 2 there, and then I've got 2 more here. Not really sure what variety. They're all different ones. This one's Ida lingonberry, and the other one's a different variety over there. And this one's another variety over here. I've got 2 more. And so I had the gooseberries that go to there. These are the currants. And I've got 1, 2, 3 currants. And then in the back are the salal. And I've got 2 of those in the back there. And as you can tell, starting here, I switched from the lingonberries to strawberries. So those are already starting to come up really well, all on there in the back. And then again, I did some annual and small perennial ground covers and stuff through here. We'll see. I'll work on that over the next year or 2 and see how that goes. So right now, this is where this path ends. But if you look back up the other path, we'll walk on back to the beginning of this one and go around. And there's the raspberries, boysenberries, and back over here. This is the long strip of blueberries. So if you look all the way down it, you can see I did end up sticking with the original plan of staggering them back and forth and planting perennials in between on the diagonals. So if you come along here, you can see a lot of these blueberries are actually doing very well, and there's strawberries in between. I got multiple varieties, like 5 different varieties of strawberries, so I'll get to see how they all do and how that turns out. These are blueberry plants that I transplanted this year. I transplanted them maybe a month ago, and they're actually looking really good. I didn't expect them to fruit with the transplant shock and such, but you can tell they're pretty laden with berries. A lot of them are, so we'll see. But they're all doing well. Strawberries are doing well, and they go all the way down here and end with this guy. This originally was closed off here, and as you can tell, I continued it. I expanded at one point, and so coming off, I've got a stevia bush here, and this was some kind of poor soil that I didn't realize was so poor. So if you can tell, it's like cracking a little bit, and I don't know if the seeds I planted there will work or not. I did some cilantro here and some other squashes and zucchinis and some pole beans there. And so we'll see how those do. I'm not quite sure. But also we've got a little guy here. This is a different specific type of blueberry that I got, the ruble blueberry. And that one is a more native variety that is supposed to be very rich in antioxidants and things like that. So that's why I got that. I made this out of some bamboo, did like a teepee. I did the horizontal rungs there for them to climb up on when they're small, and then it should be big enough to support itself and climb up the rest of the way. And then I ran an extra piece of bamboo from here straight on up and out the back, and I just figured that there's extra room out there, and if the vine wants to go trailing off that way, it can. So that finishes off the garden bed here, and then at the end I've got two things, not the green leaf, but this little stem here is a tayberry, and the same with this one here. And that ends my main garden area. Over here I do have some other things, and I'll have to look and check what's what, because I really don't remember. This one I think is a service berry. That one, almost positive, is a hazelnut shrub. And if we come through the grass here, that's a forsythia that we had planted a year or two ago. These two, actually three, I think it's that one, and this one. Well, I think I'm wrong about that. Those two I know are choke cherries, or choke berries, and those are the aronia berry bushes. And so those are a more native variety. And then this is either a hazelnut or a service berry. Really don't remember. I'll have to look that up too. Ooh, and look, the strawberries are actually flowering. So I might actually get some strawberries on year one. That'd be very interesting. Just planted these a few weeks ago. Coming back through here, this is the grassy area. You can see the leaf bin on the other side of the fence there, and all these different piles here are other things that continue with more of a food forest style. So I've got like the giant oak there. Coming around here, there's another giant tree, a giant pine. So you've got all the shade that's here in the back. The sun tracks on the opposite side from there, and it goes up and over and then sets over in that direction. And so in general, it's all shining this direction towards me and away from where I'm pointing out there. And so I'm putting all of these bigger trees in the very back. So I've got some, no, I don't even know for sure on these ones either, but I believe it's pawpaw, and then high bush cranberry, and then spice bush is what this is, and this is, and this is. And then coming up here, I had another random guy. This is another hazelnut shrub, and he's right off the path there. And that was the last kiwi. You couldn't really see very well from the other side. But then that takes us right back up the path, back up to the beginning, and that is the roughly end result of this garden area. It will definitely get modded and changed and altered and added onto. Lots of stuff will happen, I'm sure, but that's where I'm at now, and I am very pleased with how it ended up.